Hello, everyone. There was a series of talks about how to build a global group of online matchmaking brands and all the components around it. And I actually managed to put the essence of my past talks on one slide, and we'll get to that later. But first, maybe just a quick introduction of who we are and what we do. We're a privately held company from Switzerland, actually, around since 18 years. So not a startup, pretty grown up. I think the important point is we're one of these crazy German-speaking questionnaire companies that, by the way, they're big in Germany because of the marketing dollars all these companies spend, like Parship, Elite Partner. That's the, I think, true reason why they're so big in Germany and maybe less so in other regions. But we also believe this is the right concept because we believe it's not about having people search entire databases and swipe left and right, but it's really at the end of the day about getting the right people together. So we ask questionnaires in the eHarmony or Parship style to really match people and get the right people together. We do that with 4 different brands, as Mark already said. Our oldest brand is B2. That really is like mainstream, broad approach, eHarmony, Parship style. But then we realized that there's an unserved group with many dating products, and that is those who are not willing to commit for a long-term relationship right away, but don't want to miss on dating, flirting, intimacy, are open-minded, what comes next, and we built C-Date for exactly that group next. And then over the years, we saw that within all these 2 products, there are certain niches that are underserved. The first one we then approached is the ones that are looking for partners with a higher education. We call it singles. And then later on, the ones that are in a bit of a later stage of their dating life, the 50+ singles 50 silver surfers community. So if you look at these brands, what they have in common, they're all aiming for users 30, 35+, singles 50, obviously a bit older, and all have like a very hard paywall. So if you want to get in, you really have to commit to a subscription because this commitment is an important signal also towards every other user. So typically high customer lifetime values of $100 an average, but in some regions it goes up to 400, 500 euros. We are in 37 markets, but we're mostly Europe focused. So 80% of our business revenues is in Europe, and actually a good share of that in the German-speaking area, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. It's mostly a mobile web business. Just to give you an idea of size, we have 30,000 new registrations every day. Registrations being people who go through this whole questionnaire of like 10, 20 minutes to give us their data so that we can match them correctly. Growing profitably with a team of 160, mostly based here in Munich. We also have offices in Bratislava, Luxembourg, Estonia, Brazil, and a few other places. And everything that we do is on one technical platform. So if you want to add more brands or through M&A, extend our brands, we can always do so. So that's enough for the introduction. Let's get to the how to build that. And the formula initially is actually quite simple. It is customer lifetime value needs to be bigger than customer acquisition costs, right? So, I mean, from a pure business perspective, we are in an arbitrage business. So are we able to acquire customers at a cheaper price than what we then earn back from them or how we can monetize them effectively? Again, this is the reason why personality test-driven sites have been successful in the German-speaking area because they figured this out better than others. I agree, this is super, super trivial. And that's also why Mark asked me to kind of go into the talks, and thanks Maria for the nice picture here, to go into the talks that I've held so far and to really share with you a bit of the insights that I had in Chennai. Thanks again, Muru and Sai, for the nice hosting, Berlin and New York. And each time I spoke about different components. And as I promised, I kept it really short, put it all onto one slide so that we have time to go through some new things today as well. First talk, Chennai, India in 2019. That was very much around branding and how we, with offline marketing, TV, sports sponsoring, press releases, billboards, really boosted the brand awareness of C-Date in the German-speaking area. And this more long-term invest has led to 2 things. We today have a much higher share of direct entries, which we don't pay for effectively, so that brings down the customer acquisition costs. And the conversion rates with our customers have increased because people trust us, and they know what we offer. The second talk was in Berlin, 2019, somewhere winter, I think it was. And that was very much talking about how we structure our payment system, our payment architecture. And what I specifically spoke about was that we do a so-called multi-acquirer approach. So we don't work just with 1 or 2 banks, but like 10, 20, 30 banks. Why do we do that? We do that because each bank, for each user, has a different success rate. And if you know upfront, or if you can, through your data, find out upfront, which user will have which success rate, with which bank, you can route the user to the right bank and therefore increase your transaction successes significantly. And even if they then fail, you can reroute your payments afterwards to retry, so-called payment recycling. So the payment setup being, for a business like ours at least, a fundamental element is something I shared in Berlin. And then in New York, just like, I think I took one of the last planes out of New York before the airports closed due to COVID. So it's a bit more than a year ago. I shared that I think for every business in our industry, it's imperative that we have a clear no fraud, no fake, no scam policy. I know it's hard to enforce, and it's like a constant battle to get it right. And we've tested different tools and things over the course of the years, and we ultimately ended up building our own tech, and to have tree-based algorithms for structured data and deep learning networks for unstructured data, and really have built 30+ machine learning models that, together with like a meta model that sums everything up, has enabled us to now really predict damage before it happens to users or before we pay our marketing dollars. And as a result, the complaints from our users have dropped by 80%, which of course is not perfect yet, so there's still work to be done, but it's a huge improvement and something I believe is very important for all of us. So if I look at kind of all these 3 examples, the formula is quite simple, but at the end of the day, it's all around data. Yeah, so it's about the question, am I able to, the minute a user comes to my site, predict the customer lifetime value so I know how much I can spend on that channel, on that traffic source. It's about understanding, will the user convert? How will he convert? Why will he convert? What do I need to do on the CRM side to make him convert? It's also understanding what is a good product experience for a user. It's at the end of the day, it's always around data, predicting behavior, and customizing the experience in a way, and the back end, that the success for both the user and the business is maximized. Now, with all of this, and this is already kind of what I spoke about in the past, now comes the new stuff to some degree. I think for the friends who joined in India, like Maria, Sai, and so on, I'm sorry, this is maybe a bit redundant, but what I didn't speak up about much yet is really what is the deep needs of the users? Like, what are they really looking for? Even if they're sometimes not able to tell us. Yeah? So what is the qualitative view of the target group, if you want? And as much as I love big data and statistical analysis and all of this, what we've really learned over time is that doing qualitative research on our target groups helps us to better understand how do we have to communicate and how does a product have to be built. So how do we do that? Example, C-Date. We have basically always chosen to work with one agency. So if you want to use them as well, they're great. K&A Brand Research in Nuremberg, Germany. And they use a technique called psychodrama. And psychodrama basically assumes that you need to find out things without asking. Because if you ask, you very often speak to users who maybe don't want to give you the answer, or don't even know the answer themselves, or don't know how to express it. So what they do is they basically work with small groups of 8 to 12 users in a workshop format and use creative techniques to uncover the things the users don't want or cannot express. And that can be things like role plays, or I brought a few images for you here if we just go through it to kind of create the house of love, what happens in the kitchen, what happens in the bedroom, what happens in the cellar, in the attic, and to really discuss how love is and what love means. Or to visualize in a collage of what is my view of the other gender, and how do I look at it, and what images are appealing to me and what not and why. Or on the very right, this is women kind of discussing how is the path to a date? Like from the very first contact on a site all the way to we're finally in the restaurant or in the bar. What happens in between? And I can tell you for women, there's a lot going on, as you can see. I didn't put in the male picture because it's pretty empty. Maybe I put on my jeans and check the time and then I'm off. So it's interesting how different men and women are. I'm going to share a bit of this with you now, but maybe up front, just briefly as well. It's going to be very black and white. Obviously, the results are like 80, 100 pages of slides with information about the needs and the desires and the barriers and the wishes of C-Date users. But within 5 minutes, it has to be black, white, and simple. It is not always that simple. And yet, men and women are very often very different. And there was one group that stood out when we did the C-Date research, which we called disappointed love. Now think of users 35 plus. They've had a marriage, they had 1 or 2 long relationships, they failed. And they're very much in a phase where they focus on themselves again and like, okay, what went wrong? What do I really want? They're not yet ready for another deep, big relationship. They've lost the illusion maybe even of big love and think kind of negatively about the other gender and blame it for certain things that went wrong. There's some insecurity about themselves. So this is what we mean by disappointed love. And if you then look at, okay, what are the things men and women are looking for? It's just sometimes very, very different in this group. Men are just looking for something very easygoing. Yeah? So it's like, please, nothing complicated again. Yeah? Whereas women, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, just are looking for something real, something complete, a Superman. They want to be, and even if it's just for one night, they want to be a princess. Yeah? And they still have this view of, I want it all. And this, of course, doesn't go well together because men just don't want to put in the effort. They have low expectations. Yeah? And women, they want men to put in the effort and they have high expectations. Again, we're talking about the group of disappointed love, not ready to go for the next long-term relationship, but still looking for something like intimacy, some flirting, some dating, and that really is a challenge. All of this, women having the high expectations leads to men being at least intimidated, maybe even afraid of women. So I've seen so many men in these research. I always sat behind like a mirror. I don't know how it's called in English when you can watch, but the other side can't see. It's like in these TV series. So I watched them all, yeah. And there were so many men who pretty openly expressed how intimidating women are to them these days. And yes, women do consider themselves powerful, and they are. So I think they're right. To bring it to a point, basically, men look for something very simple. They're looking for sympathy, tenderness, and if they get that, they're happy. Women have a much more complex expectation. They're looking for excitement, respect, recognition. So how now build a product with these very two different genders? If expectations are so different, what can C-Date basically do? So first of all, again, the gaps. Men look for many flirts. They want to have like shoot literally on many women to increase their chances. They want to see many pictures, want to be visually entertained. They need help because they don't really know how flirting works. So they need like a pickup line and all sorts of things. And what turns them off immediately is fakes and scammers and all of that. And they need to convince women who actually look to be contacted in like a very qualitative way, like in a bar with flirting and entertaining and fun. But they want to be in control at any point of time. They want to decide what they share with whom, when, and look for this holistic experience, I'd say. So the way to bridge it is to look at what do they actually have in common? What are their shared needs? And luckily, we found some. And the shared needs they have is like both men and women kind of look for, we call it ego boosting, so building confidence, getting positive feedback, being admired, feeling special. They're very often in a situation where they have to take care of kids themselves or have many challenges at the same time, parents, job, kids, and if they can just escape that for some time, that is super for them and like really a big plus. And as I described, this group is a bit in question where their life is going. So they don't have a clear plan and just trying things out, exploring after maybe a long-term marriage or a long-term relationship. What else is actually out there is something that is really a shared need of both men and women, but also very simple, just to be close, some intimacy, some pleasure, some nice moments is something that both like. So the C in C-Date at the end is also about being a concierge and bridging men and women. And I think this is not just what C-Date needs to do, but generally what dating is all about. Yeah? Bringing people from different viewpoints, different situations in life, finding the common ground and helping them to take the next step together in life. So how do we translate that into product design? And this gives you an idea of how we then work with these results. Yeah, I give you the product example. Obviously, it goes into our marketing communication, our TV spots, our CRM we do. So whatever we work on, we go back to this research and check, does this actually match our target group? And this gives us confidence in what we do. Like, for example, being very confident that men get a hard paywall. Men need to prove that they're serious, that they really want to invest and try hard to be the better side of themselves. And a hard paywall, well, is a signal of confidence and being serious about it. Giving women a chance to quickly kind of get rid of all the not so fresh eggs in the basket. And we just gave them a fast reply button, basically to be saying like, no, you're not the person I'm looking for. Make sure women are always in the lead, full control. They decide when to communicate, what to share, when to share, no question about that. And obviously, don't just create boring profiles with text everywhere, but use images and make it a bit more lively and colorful, because that also helps the men to get in touch with the women and gives them a reason to contact and something to talk about immediately, which bridges the being scared to some degree. Men, of course, expect and should get profile pictures of a very high standard. So also here, no fakes, no faraway shots, but nice close-ups, well done. Rigorously fighting scammers and fakes with everything we have is imperative. And customer service, being around to really assist and support and help the men throughout their dating journey, is something that is a priority for us after that research. The result is very simple, that despite being a product that doesn't go for the marriage right away, but a step in between, let's call it that way, we have a very, very healthy gender balance. And we believe, because we've understood how women and men work differently in this context. So 2 men on 1 woman, in a sense, from an active user point is good. And I think this is, for a working product, also important and a result of the work we've done. Now, I know not all of you are into C-Date, so I've also brought quickly the results for another product we've done, which is Singles 50. And that's basically the joker at the end to give you another view on a target group. And good news here, dating for the over 50s seems to be even more difficult than for the users I've seen with C-Date. And again, before I start, maybe take a step back. This will again sound black and white, and you may say, oh, this is all ageism, whatever. I've seen amazing people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, where I was wondering, why are you actually a single? You're so active, you're so lovely, you're so beautiful, you're so intelligent. So this is, again, the black and white view of kind of the essence of what we've seen. There's, of course, much more to it. But generally, users over 50 avoid the L word. They don't want to talk about the big love anymore. They've had it, or they don't believe it's possible anymore. And they're very, very careful to set the expectations too high. They have a clear list of things they like and things they don't like. And if the other one hits a no-go, that's not good. And it's actually worse than that I've seen with younger users, where you have basically like 3 strikes and you're out. In this target group, is very much 1 strike and you're out. And this is really there's no forgiving, no flexibility. And to give you an example, I've seen many men who envisage their future life on a couch, and I've seen many women who envisage their future life going out, being active, exploring, and having new things happening. So this, of course, doesn't work together. That's immediately a no-go to move forward. Behind these first 2 points, however, is also something that I would call fear to lose control. This target group, as we've researched it, really has settled in their life. They have a good life. They're happy with it. They're enjoying their life. And they're afraid to lose control over it and having to change all over again. That somebody else suddenly comes in and brings everything into a mess, basically. And they don't want to give that up. Yeah? Plus, another fear, some of them haven't dated for like 20, 30 years. And they just don't know how to do it anymore. And they're, especially again, the men, unfortunately, are completely overwhelmed of how do you actually flirt? How do you treat another person? How are you patient, considerate? All these simple things that may be natural to you or not, I don't know. But certainly I've seen many users who already struggle with these very simple things. So for us, the takeaway is when we speak with this target group, we know there is a lot of users in there, not all, but a lot, that are very, very careful. They aim very low, and you need to help them and support them step by step throughout their process. So again, this is very black and white, but what I'm trying to give you today is a few of these things we've learned about our users, because at the end of the day, the formula is very simple. Customer lifetime value over customer acquisition cost. And if you get your data right, there are a million nodes you can play with on the marketing side, the product side, the BI side, how you track things, how you fight fraud, the payment end, and that alone can make a very successful business. But I think it's more than the icing on the cake. It's really the fundamentals to understand your target group and not just look at your data and the quantitative part, but also invest the time to do the qualitative research. So I'm around for questions if there's anything. Otherwise, here's my email, my Clubhouse. I've heard you have to have that these days. Anyway, or now if there's anything. Thank you very much.